Shalawam Yashala. Peace be unto the nation of Israel, whom are modern day so-called negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and speckled bright Israelites, whom are the Israelite foreigners scattered across the four corners of the earth, including within America, Babylon the Great, and you are the Most High, Yahawah's chosen people of the nation of Israel. So without further ado, just want to give all praises, glory, infinite honor to my power, YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, YAHAWAH WA YAHAWAH, which is all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahawah, in the name of His only begotten and anointed Son, Yahawashi, and the Holy Spirit, whom is our strength and our Redeemer and our light and our salvation. And with that, Mashanak Kabwadim Lahasaquanium Shalagalavabakab, meaning double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, the true shepherds of Israel, pushing this sound doctrine of faith, truth, and sincerity. And Shalawam, honors and salutations to Bayasha Dawada, meaning the house of David, representing the elect body, the elect governing body of Israel, the 144,000, along with the rest of the 1/3 elect men, women, and children in Israel. Okay. All right. So with that, shalom, shalom. All right. It's a fellow servant, Malak Rayab. She's back at it again with another, prophetic World War III update, modernly known as World War III, biblically known as Harmageddon. Okay. The battle of the armies within this last World War. Okay. In regards to these increasing military, political, and economical tensions between these nations, mainly the 10 toes prophesied in the book of Daniel, the second chapter, around the 40th verse, going into the European conglomerate of support of America, all right, modern day Rome, which is why in Malachi 1:4, it prophesies how Rome is going to fall again, because there's nothing new under the sun. And history repeats itself, all right, of secular history failed to do biblical prophecy. So here you have it. Then this headline here on CNN.com, it says the EU realizes it can't rely on America for protection. Now it has a blueprint for a new joint military force. You see, now, oddly enough, this report comes, this report comes about a month or two after Emmanuel Macron, another EU NATO ally, okay, came out recently and said that after the AUKUS deal, okay, which AUKUS is a trilateral commission between Australia, the UK, and America, went behind Australia's back, or in this case, behind France's back, and made that Indo-Pacific military deal, to ultimately further, monitor China and further control the narratives within the media that China and Russia and the likes of which that stands with them, all right, to further contend with this Western philosophical vision of America to remain on top, as a horde that sits upon many waters, prophesied in Revelation 17 chapter, would be deemed enemies, So when AUKUS, all right, and went behind France's back and made that Indo-Pacific military deal, all right, that caused Emmanuel Macron of France to come out and say that they should, that the EU, or in this case, Europe, all right, on behalf of the EU, should stop relying on America's, arms, all right, their military arms, all right, and to focus on their own sovereignty. So here you have this report, okay, where it says the EU realizes it can't rely on America for protection. Now it has a blueprint for a new joint military force. It says the chaos at the border between Poland and Belarus is just the latest incident to get top brass in Brussels pondering what the European Union should do long term about its internal security. It says a migrant crisis in which Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko stands accused of directing refugees to the Polish border took place as fears ramped up in Eastern Europe over a buildup of Russian troops on Ukraine's border. Okay, it says recent geopolitical crisis, most notably the messy withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan, has cemented thinking that the EU cannot rely entirely on the U.S. or NATO for its protection. Now, to go to further expound on the point made here regarding the mentioning of Afghanistan is when Sleepy Creepy Joe was facing a lot of backlash around the withdrawal of those troops down there in Afghanistan. That was around the time where it got further exposed that these devils were funding these same groups, that they refer to as ministers to society, going back to the 11th day of September in the year 2001. You know what I'm saying? For those in tune, with prophecy in regards to what I'm saying currently right now, and how these devils are being further exposed, within them losing control of the narratives, man. Because if of the Taliban and whatnot was so responsible for what happened, 20 years ago, why in the hell, um, uh, you know, are these devils? Did these devils get further exposed for funding the Taliban with military weapons on behalf of America? And what further confirms that? You just had a military parade on behalf of the Taliban that's recently, what I'm saying, when they were flaunting around with American funded weapons. How the hell did they get a hold of those weapons? Okay, and why are these same people, seeking refuge, through the Polish border? Okay, which it speaks about here in this article, further causing quote unquote concern for the security of the EU. Okay, especially with the buildup of Russian troops around the Ukrainian border. So in this article here, it briefly speaks about that. Okay, on the New York Times, it says how the Belarus standoff is unlike recent migrant crisis. Now, getting straight to the point, down here, all right, to expound on what I was saying, it says the right-wing governing party in Poland has long called non-European migrants a threat to Polish culture and sovereignty, and its response to the current situation has been predictably heated. Okay, so this is a quote-unquote threat to their Polish culture and sovereignty. What does that Polish culture and sovereignty really entail? It's so-called white supremacy, man. See, that's why they have a problem with them so-called Syrian and Afghan refugees entering into this Polish border. So they're trying to further control the narratives by, slapping sanctions on, Belarus, okay, to further get back at Lukashenko, okay. And that's why he responded by saying that he was willing to cut off the oil supply to the EU, okay. And by him doing that, he was a further compromise the 35% worth of oil exports, all right, on behalf of Russia to the EU, okay. That the EU imports off of, and that further angered Putin, in which increased the tension between Putin and Lukashenko, and Lukashenko is a Russian-backed leader. You see that? So these devils, in the midst of trying to protect their quote-unquote culture and sovereignty, ultimately their Edomite culture and sovereignty is what's further going to get them destroyed, okay, which further has them divided. All right, so so I'm going to go ahead and get the first precept. All right, in the book of Daniel, chapter 2. All right, and I'm going to start at verse 40. All right, Daniel chapter 2, verse 40. And it reads, "And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron." Okay, talking about the Roman Empire. "For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise." Okay. Symbolic of their iron weapons, their iron swords that they were using, as to further form themselves as a formidable army. Okay, in which all those who came against them fell, except for during the time of Septimius Severus, you had Jake triumphing temporarily over the Roman Empire, but it was to be short-lived. Okay, now eventually at the hand of Jake, these devils fell on behalf of the Roman Empire, just to resurface back again during the Renaissance period. Okay, and what is a splitting image of this empire prophesied in Revelation, the 13th chapter, verses 11 on down? It's America. All right. So they have resurfaced along with their allies. Okay, so those 10 toes here, speaking about their European conglomerate of support. Okay. So Daniel 2:41 says, "And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron. For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken." And that's why we're witnessing the further division between America from NATO and the EU. Case in point, you just had Australia come out and say that they were willing to aid America with the quote unquote defense against China's invasion of Taiwan, where you have a top EU NATO ally in France, through the spokesperson of France, Emmanuel Macron, come out and voice against the further war provocations of America, NATO, and the EU against China. Okay, mainly America, NATO. okay, against China in regards to the war provocations down there, which France spoke against. But you have another EU ally, Australia, going against the likes of France and other EU members to further support America. So that division is becoming more blatant, okay, becoming more evident these last days, because this is prophecy being further fulfilled. So this is Daniel 2 and 43. And whereas I saw iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So I'm going to stop there and get this next precept in the book of St. Mark, chapter 3, starting verse 23. And it reads, and he called them into him and said it to them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. See, and what is this house prophesying about? That proud house spoken about in Proverbs 15 and 25. Okay, that proud house of Edom. Okay, all right, and that wicked covering cast that they are spoken about in Isaiah 25 and 7. Okay, is what's further dimming their light. Okay, their perceived wisdom, knowledge, understanding, their so-called white supremacy, and the standard of the false standard of all excellency and authority. Okay, all right, under the guise of so-called white supremacy, was further exposing them. Okay, all right, their lasciviousness, their covetousness, their lust for power and complete dominance over the entire earth is what's further exposing them as the devil the Bible speaks of, who came to steal, murder, and destroy. And that's why Micah, the 2nd chapter, prophesies how this very nation, would invade lands and compromise, the well-being of these nations and lands, even to the point of a nation's heritage. Okay, which ultimately speaking about the nation of Israel. Okay, and their heritage being lost by way of the indoctrination of these devils, man. Okay, and ironically, this is what's further exposing them, and within these media outlets, man, further reporting the further division between America and her European conglomerate of support. Okay, so it says in verse 26, and if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand, but hath an end. Verse 27. All right, and we're seeing the ending of this devil, man. Okay, like it says in 2 Ezra 6 and 9. So in St. Mark 3 and 27, it says, no man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house. And that's going into the track record of these devils, man. That's what they've done during the Spanish Inquisition, during the invasion of the Northern Kingdom tribes down here in Babylon the Great, and along with other wars that they had further influence, man. All right, the Philippine Wars in the 1800s. Okay, and hell, within the wars, the wars that America has been in, within 96% of her existence, going back to 1776, man. Okay. All right. So all these proxy wars and around the Middle Eastern area of the world. Okay, it's all over about our resources. All right, dominion. All right, control within the control of the narratives within the media, which is why they keep trying to suggest to the public that China is based off of China's further development of their hypersonic missiles, and including that hypergliding weapon that they use to further circle the globe with a Mach 5 plus speed and whatnot, is to further suggest to the public that they're a menace to society because they're quote unquote weapons of mass destruction, ownership and whatnot. But that's hypocrisy for the fact that these devils are utilizing similar measures with their missile defense, their missile tests. Now despite them failing a lot of these tests, they're still doing the same thing they're accusing China and Russia of, man, because they're hypocrites. And this is part of that pride of this proud house is going to get them destroyed. Okay. All right. Including taking people's goods, man. All right. All right. Through geopolitical warfare. Okay. Of this chokehold of this devil on this earth. All right. To further proclaim himself to be God on earth. All right. So going back to this article here. All right. Now it says Belarus threatens to choke off EU gas supply over border dispute. Okay. All right. So it says Belarus has threatened to cut off its transit of gas supply to Europe if the EU imposes sanctions over a migrant crisis at its western border. Okay, jumping down here, it says, with the EU reportedly preparing a fresh round of sanctions, Lukashenko said in an emergency cabinet meeting on Thursday that the country could cut off deliveries along the Yamal-Europe pipeline from Russia, mounting further pressure on European leaders as the continent remains afflicted by the international energy crisis. You see that? So this is a further fulfillment of St. Mark 3:27, Micah the 2nd chapter, and other precepts, man. All right, the control, the war over the control of resources, and that's what we're seeing down here, you know, with that supply chain crisis on the west coast, okay, you know, which is a further fulfillment of Sirach chapter 39 verse 27, where these devils are weaponizing the resources of the earth, all right, to further coerce and condition people to ultimately bow down before the image of the dragon. Okay, Revelation 13 and 15, and ultimately take the device of that dragon, the Charagma. Okay, you know, which, you know, further confirms that, you know, all of you nations, man, that are involved in this and these last world's war, this last world's war in regards to the further intensifying tensions and provocations of war in a geopolitical sense, economical and military sense, okay, and whatnot. Okay, you're not innocent, man. Like China and Russia, they're all, you know, they're involved in a World Economic Forum. Okay, they just don't see eye to eye, you know, with the powers that be. Okay, because China answers to Britain. All right, you know, going back to the influence, or going back to the history of World War II. All right, you know, and Russia. Okay, you know, they have odds, you know, with the UK as well. Okay, so they're all divided. All these devils, mainly these Edomites are divided, man. All right, so that's why here, Macron said, quoting, going into what I quoted earlier about this situation. This on political.eu, and it says Macron calls on Europe to quit dependency on U.S. arms. Okay, and this is right after, France's top ally, America, okay, went behind France's back and signed an Indo-Pacific military deal, okay, with the Trilateral Commission of AUKUS. And that further angered Macron, which further influenced him to say this about America. The same thing that was reported in the first article, how the EU cannot trust America for security, especially in regards to the tensions around the Ukraine Poland border. All right. The Ukraine border, involving the tensions between Belarus and Poland. So it says here, French President Emmanuel Macron called for Europe to end its dependency on American weapon systems as he made a renewed pitch for the continent to take control of its destiny. Okay. In a debate with students, I'm jump down to the point. Says, we, some countries more than others, gave up on our strategic independence by depending too much on American weapon systems. Macron said at the debate, we cannot accept to live in a bipolar world made up of the U.S. and China. You see, and that's why here, in this article, it says China says U.S. bringing world closer to nuclear war after U.S. military report. See? All right, so it says the Department of Defense released on Wednesday its annual report on military and security developments involving the People's Republic of China, covering a wide range of assessments regarding China and its People's Liberation Army, the world's largest armed forces, and the top part. This is their way of further spinning within the public that China, I know, is not to be trusted. They're the big bad wolf. They're a threat to mankind. Because of their successful development of their hypersonic missiles as of recently, including this, including their the weapon that's going to be mentioned in this article, okay, the hypersonic glide vehicle on behalf of China, which is being further developed to carry other missiles. And hypersonic missiles are more dangerous than ballistic missiles because they're more stealth, and that's why Sleazy E, the self-proclaimed white man, is further envious of Moab, so-called Chinese, with their successful developments of these weapons. Because why? That further serves as doom for America and a compromising of power, the power dynamics of these devils. So it says here, U.S. develops laser weapon to counter against Chinese hypersonic missile, drone attacks, defensive technology to intercept further threats. See? says, and this part of them, claiming defense. Okay, when they provoked the cause of this defense, which is hypocrisy, manipulation, and deception, man. And these are all traits of these devils, man. Okay, and that's why they're going to be destroyed. All right, by way of their own devices, spoken about in Psalm 10 and 2. So it says the U.S. is developing a high output laser to counter hypersonic missiles and drones deployed by China after conducting successful tests. On edge are U.S. leaders who have witnessed China leapfrog them in several technologies, which prompted a lack of technology defense against them. You see, it says after the Chinese hypersonic glide vehicle went around the world at low orbit and slammed its target, speeding at Mach 5 plus speeds, this terrified the Pentagon. See, and that's why they're trying to spin in the media that Russia and China, a threat to humanity. Okay, but yet they're further developing their weapons in this last, this final showdown. Okay. Of this last world's war, Harmageddon, pursuing a Revelation, the 16th chapter, okay, and other precepts that's coming to pass before our very eyes, because this is one of the last two major prophecies, okay, to come to pass before, Yahawashi and angels returns to destroy this place, man, okay, and you heathen, the kings, you heathen nations, man, all right, so, and that's why here it says Russia anti-satellite missile test was the first of its kind, because they recently tested an anti-satellite missile, which says here, Russian anti-satellite missile test draws condemnation from space companies and countries. You see that? So, these devils are at their wits' end within this last world's war. You see? So, go ahead and get this next precept. In Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 5. And it reads, by thy great wisdom and by thy traffic has thou increased thy riches, and their traffic includes their allies, the EU and NATO, but those who are partly strong they're still standing with them, and the ones that are partly broken that are broken away from them. Okay, like you got Turkey looking to join BRICS, essentially joining to be under the wing of Russia on behalf of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa to join that union to further break away from NATO, and that's a further fulfillment of Daniel, the 2nd chapter as well. Okay, how the 10 toes be partly broken and partly strong. Ezekiel 28 and 5. By thy great wisdom and by thy traffic has I increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches. And that goes into why, you have Poland looking at, or the EU threatening, Belarus's Alexander Lukashenko with sanctions. You see, and he further responded by doing what? Okay, the same thing that these devils are doing, okay, with their own allies, is the same thing that they've been doing to the world, especially our people. Okay, during the Spanish Inquisition and similar accounts of secular history, where they raped, robbed, and murdered us, pillaged us, stole our resources, put us in slavery. See, and ultimately those who refuse to bow down before the image of the dragon, accept this global hegemony, okay, they're looking at a similar fate. Okay, it's ultimately destruction. Okay, because this devil is not going to allow anybody, even his own allies, to stand in the way of his global hegemony, his NWO. Okay, and this is what's further increasing that friction and contention and strife between these nations, which is why they're gonna be led into this last world's war. Okay, which is why we're seeing great betrayal between these devils because of that. So Ezekiel 28 and 6. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahawah, because thou hast set thine heart as a heart of the heart of God. See, behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness. And that's what they're doing, okay, in which they're for developing these modern day swords, okay, these flying swords spoken about in Isaiah, the 34th chapter, okay, through these various missile tests, these various missile test developments we keep hearing in the media, man, okay, because this is biblical prophecy being further fulfilled. This last showdown between the nations, man. Okay, Harmageddon. Ezekiel 28 and 8. They shall bring thee down to the pit, and thou shalt die the deaths of them that are slain in the midst of the seas. Okay, you're going to be destroyed. You're going to be going to war within the seas, the firmament. Okay, all right. Ultimately, pursuing Revelation, the 12th chapter, when you devils and the rest of these heathen nations fight Hamashiach Yahawashi and the angels. Okay, where you will be destroyed. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get the next precept in Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 7. And it reads, Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. They're drunk off this Western philosophy. Okay, the ideology of so-called white supremacy to control everybody's resources, to destabilize countries, lands of countries, and infiltrate, the political officials and military officials and leaders of these lands to use them as pawns to further push their agenda. And that's why they took out Moise in Haiti, because he wasn't trying to play ball, with the thing. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So it's ongoing pattern. Same reason why they took out Gaddafi. Same reason why they took out Hussein. Okay, this ongoing pattern of wickedness. Okay, is further exposing these devils, and this is what's going to further cause this war, because they're not a profitable king to rule the earth, like it says in Sirach the 10th chapter. So verse 8: Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her pain. If so be, she may be healed. So Babylon cannot be healed, okay, because the sins of this place has reached the heavens. Pursuant of Revelation 18th chapter, okay. And that's why in Proverbs the 16th chapter mentions how man's goings of the Lord, even to the point of destruction, okay. Like it says in Proverbs 16:4, reserving the wicked for the day of evil, and that's that dark and gloomy day of Hamashiach Yahawah's return to wage war on the armies of these heathen kings. All right. Jeremiah 51:9, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country, for her judgment reacheth into heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. Verse 10, the Lord Yahweh has brought forth our righteousness. Come, and let us declare in Zion the work of Yahweh our power. So this is the work of YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, making preparations for us to rule the earth again, the sons of God, that will later go on to be called the Israelites. Pursuant of Genesis the 35th chapter, when our forefather Jacob wrestled with the angel. Okay, and the descendants from his loin would go on to be called the Israelites, moderately known as the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians, who are downtrodden in society by way of the curses. But this is the part of us lifting up our heads to rejoice for our salvation to come, pursuing Romans 13:11, by way of these last few prophecies coming to pass, including the downfall of our enemies, which we are greatly rejoicing in, man. Pursuing of Sirach 25:7, seeing the downfall of the self-proclaimed white man, the devil the Bible speaks of, and the rest of those who stands with the satanic wicked counsel. Okay. Including these other heathen nations, okay? Jeremiah 51:11. Why? Because we're within this paradigm shift, okay, of the rulership of the heathen transitioning over to the rulership of the righteous, where we get exalted in a society, all right, and where Zion is going to rule the earth all over again. Okay, and forever, under the wing of Hamashiach Yahawah and King David. All right. Jeremiah 51:11, make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord Yahweh had raised up the spirit of the kings and the Medes, which are the Russians, so-called Russians, which you keep hearing about. Okay, and with these current, quote unquote World War III updates, like Russia's most recent anti-satellite missiles test. Okay, because they're further furbishing their sword, pursuing Ezekiel 21:9, just like the rest of these devils. All right. So it says, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple. So as it is the vengeance of the Lord Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, all right, to wage war on the heathen, all right, destroying the earth, all right, by way of their lack of righteous counsel, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and get, speaking of arrows, let me get Jeremiah 50:9. It reads, for lo, I will raise up and cause to come up against Babylon and the symbol of great nations from the north country, and that's Russia and all of those, all right, who ultimately have a mutual, understanding with Russia to eliminate, the main cause of the problem, so to say, and that's America, Babylon the Great, the whore that sits upon many waters. So they're going to team up and they're gonna shoot the arrows over here and not miss. Okay, like it says here in the second Ezra, it's the 16th chapter. And that's these thermonuclear ICBM missiles and these 200 million thermonuclear warheads of these missiles that will fan this place, like it says in Jeremiah 51:1, with that thermonuclear wave of heat and radiation that will consume everything in its path, man. Okay, so through the terror of the Lord, Yahweh Bahasham Yahawah, we persuade them in, because we don't want to feel that wrath coming to this place, but it's required. Okay, before we're taken back home to Jerusalem. Okay, but that's not going to take place until America, Babylon the Great is destroyed. Okay, so this is Jeremiah 50:9. For lo, I will raise up and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And that's why here in this other article it says here, after meeting with Z, Biden says U.S. not going to change Taiwan policy. Now, they were going back and forth before and after